Welcome back to Open Window Politics. Today we're going to be doing a prediction for the U.S. Senate elections during the midterms this November in 2026. Going through each of these states, given a characterization. So I've already characterized all the safe states. We're going to be going through the likely, lean, and then finally tilt states. So I will start out with the likely states for the Republicans. So I'm going to start out in Texas. I do think Texas, it will depend on who the Republican and Democratic nominees are. At the moment, I'm going to put it into the likely red, likely Republican margin. We'll have to see who becomes the Democratic and Republican nominee. Somewhat crowded field on both ends for the Texas primaries. So that is going to be one more seat for the Republicans. Brings us to 47 to 43. So for Democrats to be able to hold the Senate for the rest of Trump's term at least, they would need to win 8 of the remaining 10 seats, which is going to be a tall ask. We'll be going through each of them though. For Republicans, at least for the rest of Trump's term, would only need to win 3 more seats with a 50-50 Senate tie. J.D. Vance would be the tie-breaking vote, giving Republicans the control of the Senate with 50 seats. So that's going to be Texas right there. And then as far as the other states go, I'm going to go I'm going to actually go to the lean rating. Actually, no, there's going to be 1 or 2 more, Nebraska and Iowa. I'm going to put those 2 into the lean Republican rating. Dan Osborne is an independent. He ran in 2024. He outperformed Harris by a pretty considerable margin in the state of Nebraska, so people are optimistic that he could win this time around with a more favorable environment for the Democrats. He, like I mentioned, is not a Democrat. He's an independent, but the Democrats, last I heard, are choosing not to nominate anybody. So he is kind of the de facto Democratic nominee, even though he's running as an independent. So that'll narrow up the race. Ultimately, it is still Nebraska, so it's a very red state. But I do think that would narrow it from the safe to the likely margin. So that is 49 to 43. And then we'll go through the likely states for the Democrats. So for the Democrats, we have the state of Minnesota. And actually, I think that is going to be the only one. But still, Democrats need every seat they can get. So that is going to be 44 to 49. And then we'll jump to the lean rating. So for the lean rating, I'll start with the Republican seats. I'm going to go with Alaska. I think this is going to be an interesting Senate election race to watch. Democrats definitely had a great pick with Mary Peltola as the nominee for the Senate. I think she will narrow it up more than any other Democrat could have done. Ultimately, it still is a pretty Republican state, so it will result, I would predict, in a Republican victory on the Senate level, but definitely more narrow with Peltola at the top of the ticket for the Senate. And then there's going to be 1 more for the Republicans in the lean rating. So that is going to be the state of Ohio. Ohio, this is going to be Sherrod Brown as the Democrat. He's used to be a senator from the state. He's running for not his Senate seat, which he lost 2 years ago, but the other Ohio Senate seat. And I think he is also a great pick for Democrats. It'll be interesting to see if things will narrow up more so in Alaska and Ohio. But at the moment, I'm going to predict it for the Republicans. So that is going to be 1 more seat, bringing them to 51. So already have control of the Senate for the rest of, at least for until the next elections in 2028. And we'll be able to lose at least 1 vote for in the Senate for tie-breaking. And then we'll go to the lean blue states. So that is going to be the state of New Hampshire, 1 more seat for the Democrats. And then we'll add a tilt rating now for the final states. So I will start out with Georgia. In Georgia, see this state most likely ending up in the Democratic Party's column. This is Jon Ossoff's seat. I do think it'll be close. I think all of these tilt states are going to be close. But he is well positioned to win re-election. He's also the incumbent, of course. So that's going to be an important factor, but that is going to be 1 more seat for the Democrats. And then I'll go to the state of North Carolina. North Carolina, this is a bit of an interesting case. Roy Cooper, a popular former a popular former Democratic governor of the state of North Carolina, is running for Senate. He was a great pick for Democrats, and at the moment, I think would probably be good enough of a choice to result in a victory in North Carolina. That's going to be an impressive feat. This one I'm not super certain about, but for now I'm going to put it into the tilt blue column. And then we're going to go to Michigan. So in Michigan, I've gone back and forth on Michigan. In the last poll, I had it in the tilt red margin. I just have been going through looking at some polls for the state. We've seen there's Emerson College with the Democrats taking the lead. Prior to that, though, it was more of a close race. We had Republicans up in these polls from a couple. There haven't been too many, really, from too many different sources. But at the moment, the most recent polls have the Democrats up. So I'm going to put the state of Michigan into the Democratic Party's column. So that's going to be 48 to 51. And that leaves us with the state of Maine. So Maine is also an interesting case. This is Susan Collins' seat. She is running for re-election as a Republican, of course, in a pretty blue state. It's not the most Democratic leaning. It's definitely no Massachusetts or Maryland. But Maine is definitely a Democratic leaning state. And I think that will probably just the partisan identity of the state will be able to result in a flip for the Democrats to win one more seat in the U.S. Senate. And it will be interesting to watch, though. Susan Collins has consistently outperformed the polls in her prior races against Democrats, so this could be the case again. But for now, I just think this will be probably the election that changes things for her and results in a Democratic flip. So feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you.